Berlin, April 1945. The air was heavy with dust and fear. Columns of smoke coiled above the city as Soviet artillery thundered in the distance. Inside the underground corridors of the Führer bunker, maps trembled on the tables with each explosion. Officers whispered in low voices, glancing nervously at the man who refused to accept the truth. The Reich was collapsing. Yet amid the ruins and despair, one name surfaced repeatedly in Hitler's desperate orders: Felix Steiner. It was whispered like a final invocation, a hope that somewhere north of Berlin, a decisive counterstroke might still be possible. To the men around him, the command was absurd. To Hitler, it was the last thread of illusion holding together his sense of control. Who was this man whose name appeared in the last pages of the Third Reich's history? What kind of soldier could be trusted with a mission that even the most fanatical generals called impossible? And what did he himself think as the entire world around him disintegrated into ash? If you find stories like this fascinating, moments when the fate of nations turns on a single human decision, subscribe and leave a like. More hidden chapters from history await you here. Felix Martin, Julius Steiner, was born on May 23, 1896, in Ebenrode, East Prussia, a borderland of forests, cold winds, and deeply rooted military tradition. In such a place, the idea of service was not a choice but an inheritance. As Europe drifted toward war, Steiner entered the Prussian Cadet Corps, a system that valued obedience, endurance, and intellectual discipline. When the First World War erupted in 1914, the 18-year-old cadet joined the Imperial German Army and was assigned to the 5th Grenadier Regiment. He fought in France and Belgium, earning both classes of the Iron Cross for courage under fire. The trenches shaped him into a professional rather than a romantic, a man who measured success by survival and precision. The German defeat in 1918 left Steiner, like many veterans, disoriented. The empire was gone, the army reduced, and the ideals he had been taught seemed hollow. Yet he remained in uniform, serving in the 100,000-man Reichswehr allowed by the Treaty of Versailles. These interwar years molded him into a thinker of tactics. He studied the dynamics of morale, mobility, and communication. He believed that the future of war would not belong to massed armies, but to flexible, highly trained units capable of independent action. This analytical approach, detached, technical, and modern, would later define Steiner's command style. He was not a politician. He was a soldier, navigating a country that no longer understood itself. By the mid-1930s, Germany was rearming. The Nazi regime, driven by ambition and ideology, blurred the lines between politics and the military. Steiner, then a major, saw the SS creating its own military formations, the SS Verfügungstruppe. These units promised rapid advancement and autonomy. In 1935, he joined them, bringing professional expertise into what was still a politically charged experiment. Steiner's approach was methodical. He emphasized training over ideology, discipline over fanaticism. He reorganized instruction manuals, introduced field exercises modeled on his World War I experience, and treated his soldiers as professionals rather than instruments of propaganda. His leadership style earned quiet respect even from traditional army officers who distrusted the SS. In the 1940 campaign against France, Steiner commanded the SS Regiment Deutschland with notable efficiency. His unit broke through French defenses near the Somme and was praised for tactical precision. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, he was promoted to lead the Wiking Division, an unusual formation composed of volunteers from across Northern and Western Europe. Danes, Norwegians, Dutch, Finns, and even a few Swiss. The Viking Division fought hard on the Eastern Front, from Ukraine to the Caucasus. Historians later noted that under Steiner's command, it maintained a comparatively disciplined reputation within the Waffen-SS, a rare distinction in a force increasingly associated with ideological brutality. Steiner focused on operational efficiency and survival rather than racial or political dogma. His men respected him not as a believer, but as a commander who cared about their chances to return home alive. By 1943, he had risen to lead the 3rd Germanic SS Panzer Corps. But even a capable corps commander could not alter the course of a war that was already lost. In April 1945, Soviet armies encircled Berlin. The German command structure was disintegrating, yet Hitler still imagined counteroffensives on his war maps. On April 21st, he issued a direct order. Army Detachment Steiner was to attack north of Berlin, cut through Soviet lines, and relieve the capital. The reality was far different. Steiner had only fragments of units, remnants of the 5th Jaeger Division, parts of the Nordland Division, and scattered armor with little fuel. Ammunition was low, communication chaotic. His forces were stretched thin, defending against overwhelming Soviet strength. Steiner studied the maps and realized the truth. The attack could not succeed. To carry it out would mean the annihilation of every man still under his command. In his situation report, he explained that his forces were incapable of offensive action. It was a measured, factual statement, but one that defied the Führer's final command. When news of Steiner's non-movement reached Hitler on April 22nd, the scene in the bunker turned explosive. Witnesses recalled his outburst, a violent mixture of rage and despair. It was then that Hitler admitted the war was lost. The Steiner offensive had never existed. It was a mirage that vanished the moment reality intruded. For Steiner, the refusal was not an act of rebellion, but of reason. It was the decision of a professional soldier unwilling to waste lives for symbolism. In a world collapsing around him, it was perhaps his only truly independent choice. As the Third Reich crumbled, Steiner withdrew his remaining troops westward to avoid Soviet capture. On May 3, 1945, he surrendered to American forces. Unlike many of his peers, he was not tried at Nuremberg. Allied investigators concluded that he had not participated in war crimes and had attempted to maintain discipline within his units. He spent 3 years in internment, reflecting on the war's end and his place in it. Upon release in 1948, Steiner settled in Munich. The new West Germany was struggling to rebuild both materially and morally. In this uncertain climate, he began writing. His books, including Die Freiwilligen der Waffen-SS and Die Armee der Geächteten, the Army of the Outlaws, sought to redefine the Waffen-SS as a purely military organization, detached from the ideological crimes of the Nazi regime. His efforts sparked controversy. Some viewed them as an attempt at self-justification. Others saw in them a veteran's attempt to separate the profession of arms from the politics that had corrupted it. He also contributed to early discussions about forming a new West German defense force, though his proposals were politely ignored by political authorities eager to distance themselves from the past. Steiner died on May 12, 1966, at the age of 69. His passing was quiet, no state honors, no fanfare, only brief obituaries noting that he had once commanded Hitler's Phantom Army. Felix Steiner's life is a study in contradictions. He was a man of discipline, serving a regime that thrived on chaos, a professional in a movement driven by ideology. His decision in April 1945 to refuse an impossible order became one of the few moments in which logic briefly pierced the haze of fanaticism surrounding Hitler's final days. Was it courage, prudence, or simply exhaustion? History does not provide simple answers. What remains clear is that Steiner's restraint prevented further pointless deaths in a war already lost. In that sense, the man behind Hitler's last stand was not the executor of it, but the one who declined to make it real. The story of Felix Steiner reminds us how fragile the boundary is between loyalty and responsibility. Even within a system built on obedience, there are moments when saying no becomes the last act of integrity. His life, stripped of myth, offers no glorification, only the quiet lesson that professionalism, without moral awareness, is easily consumed by the powers it serves. If this story made you reflect on the thin line between duty and delusion, leave a like, subscribe, and enable notifications. More journeys into the forgotten corners of history are yet to come.